welcome to Audio Addiction. We have Surrounded by Giants. It's been a hot minute since you've seen his face, and he can tell you his name and what he does in the band.
Hey, I'm Frank. I play guitar in Surrounded by Giants.
So
We're a three-piece.
I want to give a shout out to Frank. He was probably one of the first, within the first year, easy of Audio Addiction. So I just want to give a shout out to him because, dear Jesus, for him to want to come back on and do it again, that's, it's quite a good thing,
Hey, it was a lot of fun, man. I had a really good time last time. We had some good conversation. I think we talked for 2 hours, maybe even longer.
It was long, so I don't think I don't know, maybe, we'll play it out, we'll see how long it's gonna be.
Yeah.
I don't want to be giving people, the director's cut version of Audio Addiction, but, Frank, tell them about, your band, how things have been, and, how things have changed pretty much in the past 2 years,
Dude, the past 2 years have been crazy. So, we put out, I think around the last time we talked, we put out our first EP, Over the Counterculture. Since then, I became roommates with Jack, started playing with the Buried Heart as well. And then we ended up relocating from Chico, California to Sacramento. And then, we've kind of just been getting acquainted with the scene out here. I'm working on getting some new music for Surrounded by Giants out. We're going to be dropping a new single in about a week or so, actually. And then later this year, we're finally going to be hitting the studio to do hopefully a full length. And we're going to be recording with Josh Unit from Wolf and Bear, who Jack's actually recording with right now for the Buried Heart album.
Awesome. So, is the lineup the same? How has that changed? I'm sure that has evolved since you have moved. How has that been? Either A, trying to work it out with the band members that you had previously, or just finding new members? How has that been? Has it been a struggle? Has it not been? How's the process been going forth with that?
It's definitely been challenging at times, but after a couple months of it just being Ryan, my drummer, and I, him and myself, we ended up getting a new bass player, actually, who was a roommate of ours at the time, and playing in another band with Ryan. And we lived together for about 2 years, and then in Chico. And then Jack moved in, and then we all relocated out here to Sacramento. So I didn't just get a new bandmate, I got a new roommate as well to go along with it.
That's awesome. And how has Sacramento been in comparison to Chico? I know we spoke on it a little bit, how is the scene differentiated between the smaller sort of Chico shows to I'm sure Sacramento is a much larger scene. So how has that been so far?
Oh yeah, it's been really cool. Sacramento's a lot more spread out. But there's a lot more happening out here, which is really cool. Last weekend, actually, I played a show with the Buried Heart just outside of town here. There was a local promoter put on a music festival, a 3-day camp.
I saw that.
It was called Family Vacation, and that was super cool. So, and compared to Chico, we never really had anything like that out there. We had our 1 to 2 venues in town, and we were regulars at. But Sacramento, the scene here is just huge comparatively. I definitely miss Chico, but there's just so much activity out here that I'm definitely grateful to be out here and just trying to do the same thing here in a bigger town. So.
Awesome. Well, you keep mentioning Jack, which is hilarious. I have a hilarious story about him. I had found out that he was also from New Jersey, so he went out to go visit his parents, and so we linked up while he was out here, and he was just like, dude, you're the sickest. I always tell him, tell Frank I said what's good, but he's like, we went to go see This Wildlife in Philly, and then so we were all hanging out with the band and stuff, so it was a funny little antidote, and I hope he comes back to New Jersey at some point, maybe as a touring act more or less than just to come out to vacation, but that was really cool. And then just telling me that he had to like vacate his apartment for like a month pretty much, and then moved in with you. So how has that been? Like, has he really helped you like create songs? Obviously you said you're a part of the Buried Heart as well, so like how has that exchange been, like being roommates with him and kind of like either like exchanging ideas, or like how has the flow been between you guys?
It's been really cool, man. Being like guitar players and stuff, you know, we like to be loud, especially when we're trying to write or practice. So it's been cool, especially over the past like year or so, like hearing the Buried Heart album like come together, you know, just starting from like little riffs or licks that, you know, I hear Jack playing in his room and I'll be like, oh, that sounds like really cool. And, you know, months further down the line, I hear how it's progressed into this like really cool song with, you know, a lot of idea and a lot of passion behind it. So definitely, I think we've both been able to like feed off of each other's like creative like forces, and there's been just like a really cool like exchange during that. So
I like that a lot, just because again I like each band as its own thing, but at the same time I'm like, it's kind of cool that again via friends of the internet, is like cool to see that he's like, you know, taking ideas from you and vice versa. I think that like, I'm sure if I had a roommate and I was writing a record, that would be like super cool. And like, does he give you like honest critiques about like new Surrounded by Giants stuff, and like vice versa? Like he's like, yo, what do you think about this track, Frank? Or like, or he'll come in and probably ask you like, what do you think of this Buried Heart track? Like, do you try to give him like hard critiques because you know like you want to put out the best thing for him, or you just like, you know, he's my roommate, so like I gotta go easy on him, you know?
Well, yeah, definitely. You know, you don't want to cause like tension or anything like that. But the thing about Jack is, you know, he puts his time into his work. So often, if there's anything I do have to critique, it's really not much. Like he definitely takes his time and really will sit there for hours at a time. I'll watch him and just construct a song and just put everything, you know, in order. So. We definitely will give each other some feedback and stuff, but you know, we're not, you know, just slamming each other, you know, just talking mad crap on each other's like riffs or anything. But yeah, it's definitely like, I'm trying to think of a good way to describe it, but I mean, we definitely just give each other, like, we tell each other what we really like and appreciate about like the songs or the pieces that we're working on, and you know, think of ways that maybe it could be better. But yeah, I'd say there's a lot more appreciation going on than critiquing.
I think that I didn't mean like just like hating on someone. Just I think for me, like if I was in that sort of situation, like I would just be like, okay. Like, even if I was, like, roommates with somebody that was creating music and they knew I did, like, a channel, like, I'm almost positive they'd be like, you know, what do you think of this track? Like, what do you think I could change about it? Like, I think that it's always cool as, like, a mutual exchange. Like, even, like, bands, like, send me stuff and they're like, hey, what do you think about this track? Like, what do you think I could change? Like, and to me, that's, like, one of the best things about doing this thing, is because, like, you know, people have, like, a high opinion about what you think about, even though like I'm like, I could give a flying shit what I think about anything, but it's cool. And then like just to kind of see the end product, like even if it's in the like baby stages, like I heard some of the new stuff from the Buried Heart and I'm like, dude, this is like 1000% better than the EP. Like no Johns, like it's so good. And
it's on
he's
a level.
Like, and he's like, could you just critique this real hard? And I'm like, dude, it's so good already. Like, and I'm not just being like, you know, let me just pump Jack up right now. I'm like, dude, this is legitimately good. And I think that, like, and maybe I can get your opinion on it. Like, I always see bands or like even fans sometimes, like, I'll see them in the comments being like, yo, why they change their sound? Like, you know, what the hell are they doing? Like, you know, and I think that there's two sides to the coin, like, and maybe you can agree or disagree on it, but like, you'll see like people that are like, yo, I want somebody to make the same album like 5 more times. I don't care, you know, if they advance at all musically. And then there's people that are like, yo, like, we want them to change, but not like that much. Like, I feel like there's not that much leeway. So like, as an artist, do you find it hard to like kind of like squash the opinions of like other people when you hear like when they're like, yo, this is a new track, like one of my new tracks from Surrounded by Giants, like, what do you think? Like, you know, stuff like that. Do you really take that into consideration? I'm sure you do, because I know, like, as a channel person, like, I want people to critique me as I'm like critiquing something, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. As an artist, you know, the feedback you get from your audience is, you know, is something you really have to think about and critique. And it's tough trying to manage, you know, that balance between wanting to grow and evolve, as opposed to just staying the same and doing the same thing the whole time. I mean, it can be pretty easy sometimes to get caught up in the same kind of formula. I find that too, like when I'm trying to create a song or something, or just coming up and be like, oh, okay, I've kind of used a riff like that before, or I use this chord progression a lot. Let me try and mix things up. Maybe I'll try and write something, you know, like darker, and it's like, okay, now I've done something that's a little bit different outside of what I've done. How does it relate to the rest of that? And is it still, you know, consistent and good with anything I've done in the past? Is someone who's listened to me before, are they going to appreciate that? So it's a tough balance to make.
Yeah. I don't think there's like ever a correct answer. I think that, like, for me, as like somebody who again listens to an insane amount of music, I think for me it's like, if I can, like, even if it changes, like, I'd love to have that like theme. Like, there's got to be something that like speaks to me about like the overall theme of like either an EP or like an album. And I think like one band in this sort of like post-hardcore scene that I always felt like kind of held the reins on that, and still does, I feel like, is Hail the Sun. Like, I feel like from their first record, where they're just like sporadic as shit, like like Elephantitis, like that's like one of my favorite records. And then all the way to like the most recent record, like their EP, like Secret Wars, and then their newest record, which, by the way, like, so hyped for, like, no
I'm excited.
But like, they've changed, like, and you know, like, people think like, oh, Wake, like, they changed a lot, and I'm not gonna disagree with that. I feel like that's probably the most experimental record, but it's still, at the end of the day, like, I'm like, that's Hail the Sun, like, regardless. And I think that if you're a band, like, and you're trying to do stuff differently, like, I think it's good to pull from different things and like really experiment, but at the same time be like, okay, these are what like core Surrounded by Giant fans like, so let me try to, like, you know, meet them halfway. But like with the new writing and stuff, like, were there any particular bands or like musicians that have really kind of influenced you during like the writing time?
Oh yeah. Especially over the past couple years, I've really sort of developed a passion for, like, I'd say like R&B, soul, like gospel. So some big artists that like have really had an impact on me would be like Hiatus Coyote, Anderson .Paak. I'm trying to think who else. There's some other people, but like Brent Faiyaz. So yeah, and that sort of influence has definitely made its way into the Surrounded by Giants like craft, that, you know, in terms of the songs and material that we've been working on for the past year. So as opposed to just being a sort of a sporadic punk band, there's that little bit of groove and element that we've been sort of adding into our sound.
That's cool. I appreciate that, just from like taking different like aspects of the genre and like kind of like changing it up. Like, I feel like another band that has that sort of like R&B flair, but like also like is very much like swancore. I hate saying that word, but it's so accurate to that style of music. But like a Marionette, like,
yes,
they have that like R&B swag, like soul swag, but they're like totally DGD style like shit, and I'm like, well, first of all, Marionette, if you're watching this somehow, like, yo, hit your boy up. Like, we need to get this shit popping right now. But they're killer, and like for me, like if that's the style you're going into, dude, like please, like sign me up, like tomorrow, today, yesterday. I'd be so about that,
Yeah, I'm loving what they're doing right now. Actually, they played actually the same day at Family Vacation last week, so we got to do our set, and then later in the day, I got to be like front row, right in center, to catch Marionette do their set with their new vocalist, and it was killer. They're a great band live, and I just really love that like just fun, upbeat, dancey kind of like vibe that they bring to like the post-hardcore sound. It's fun and refreshing.
Yeah, absolutely, and I feel like with that, I feel like those like just that sort of style of music is definitely like popping this year. Like a Marionette releasing some hot stuff. Like this other band that is local to Florida, Cat Company. I've been seeing them in Hemi. They're like killer shit. Like I love their stuff. Like Dance Gavin Dance is releasing a new record, which is like wild. That like, and to me, like I was thinking like, oh, they'll release a record maybe like 2 years, and then I saw like an Instagram post and they're like back in the studio again, and I'm like, it's been like a year since like the relationship. I'm like, how do you pump that shit out all the time? And then I think to myself, I'm like, Will Swan's in Dance Gavin Dance. He's also in Cianvar, and blah blah blah. Like I don't know how and Sergio Medina. Like to me, like I don't know how they're like in like 6 bands and they're like pumping out shit, and I'm like out here like struggling to come up with one song, and they're like out here like like out here like, oh, I just got 54 songs that I just need to finish out on. They're 54 complete songs. I just don't get it, man. They're writing machines.
They really are. I think, especially with DGD, they've just been at it for so long. I think when you've been working with people and like the same kind of core crew for so long, eventually, and I noticed this with musicians too, you kind of just develop this chemistry that so evolves into this sound, and that really becomes like the basis of your band and what you guys are doing. So those guys, just the amount of material and stuff that they put out is just, it's mind-boggling, especially thinking about how solid and just busy of a guitar player like Will is. It's incredible that someone can keep that creativity going for so long and always bring something new to the table.
Absolutely. I think that like for him, like every time I'm not like, okay, like this is like recycled DGD. I think that every time I go into a new record with them, it's always like they just think out of the box, and I think that that's like probably the most like, they're definitely one of the most creative bands in the scene. I think that's undeniable. But like,
definitely,
it's just insane to me like that, like the connect of like they're releasing records like pretty frequently, and then just having that same sort of like creative flow too. Like it's so cool to see, and I'm stoked on the new record. But to kind of flip side this question, like with bands like a lot like Birds and like Soulless recently like disbanding, like how has that, I guess, affected you? I don't know how big of a fan you are of either of them, but like what do you think the process was behind that? Like obviously, like they're incredible bands. If you haven't checked either of them out, like please go do so. But like like what did you think about the whole situation behind that? Like I think I have some opinions about it, which I'll probably talk about after you're finished. But like, what did you think about that whole scenario, and like what do you think this scene can do to like maybe keep those sorts of bands like going and around?
Yeah, man, it's been like a tough year for the scene, I feel like. Not just a lot like Birds and Soulless, but also seeing like Oranges disband too. Bands, I've been following and been a fan of for years. Before I was even in a band, I was listening to a lot like Birds. They've been around in Sac since like 2009. Like I've seen that one, I think hit me the most, because it's like I have such a history like watching that band, seeing them before they even had like Joe, the drummer. So I had to go a couple weeks ago to their last show, and that was an experience. That was really cool, but also kind of tough, because that band had a huge impact on me. The writing from No Place has just been such an inspiration to me after like all these years. And yeah, so I get it. It's tough keeping a band together and keeping the process like just going. It's a struggle. I've wanted to like just quit and give up myself plenty of times. So I get when when things don't work out, but I think there's such a strong and solid scene, not just out here in like Sacramento, but just throughout, the U.S. You have, groups like Hemisphere. There's like Swan Posting and like math rock groups. And I think the community that builds from all these groups is just going to continue to thrive and keep, not just these artists, like all the members of Soulless and a lot like Birds and Oranges, not just keep supporting what they're doing. I think we're going to see new artists break their way, into those scenes. And I think we're still going to see a lot of support for the music. There's just so much heart and passion that I don't think it's going to stop, even if DGD breaks up today. I think we're still...
I don't need you to say that, Frank.
God forbid.
Those are hurtful words.
But I think we're still... The fans are just so loyal, and they have so much, passion. DGD for me is another hometown band. I first discovered them when... I think it was the Death Star album, and I started...
Oh, yeah.
Like, Kurt was in the band, and they had just dropped that, and like watching them go from like this little like hometown like band to like this like national act that is just crazy successful, and just seeing people who I've, used to see at shows when DGD were starting out still going to shows. I think that just speaks volumes to the amount of support that's out there for musicians. And I think that's gonna just keep going and escalating through time.
I also feel like it also just shows off the growth and ability of like bands, because like I think like, and I've mentioned it many times on Audio Addiction, but like for me it's like whenever I have people on, like these are people that work their asses off, like just grinding it out, and like even though I'm like maybe like the smallest bit of like on the radar of like everything, I think for me it's like, if I can get somebody else to find out about this band, like, when they're small or whatever, like, I think for me that's even better and more vindicating for me, if anything, to have somebody be like, yo, I found out about this band through you, like, that means more to me than if I got like a $1 million paycheck from YouTube. I mean, sure, I would take that like in a heartbeat, but at the same time, like, I think it equals the same sort of weight, and like, I think that it's definitely like a problem, but also I feel at the same point it's like, an opportunity for bands that are smaller and like really grinding it out to just be like kind of put it full force and like really punch it, because you want to fill that gap. Like, there's bands out there that should and definitely will fill that gap, and I think it only brings about more, talent, more of a camaraderie, hopefully, with the just bands across the states. And like, for me, it's like, yeah, we lose out on like amazing bands like Soulless. Again, I can't thank them enough for like coming on back then, and I'm stoked to see Var, I think in like 2 weeks, so I'm really stoked on that. But like,
nice.
Stuff like that, and there's still avenues for those bands to still do stuff. Like, obviously, I think Santino and Joe are in Var. I know Joe's also in Royal Coda. So like, I think that and then Sergio's in Royal Coda as well, and Idola. It's like, there's ways for those bands to still exist and still be a part, even if it's not like, the band that you want. Like, I think that there's still entities for them to survive in, and I hope that that just brings about more growth and just more bands. Like, even if I'm from New Jersey and you're from Cali, like, it's still like, we're literally as far apart as we could possibly be. And I think that the one thing about like doing music now is just like, there's a camaraderie that comes along with it. Like whether you're, you know, a person that interviews or you're a band to band sort of a thing. Like I think that I would love to see just more like local bands taking each other out and like kind of like building that whole thing of like community where, you know, if I do well, like I want to take you with you, you know, like that sort of mentality. I think that has always proved the best in like this sort of music, you know, and that's the sort of thing that I love about this genre too, is that like, you know, everybody's so, I mean, sure, there's haters, like I think that's without question, but at the same point, like, you know, there's people that are out there that are like, you know, really about these bands, and it's cool for sure.
Oh, definitely. I would have to say community is huge to me, to kind of add to your point there. You know, coming from a you know, previous to SAG, coming from Chico, where, you know, it was a small town, and we were happy just to get like, you know, cool bands that we had heard of or like knew of to come through. And we were lucky enough to, you know, have a house where we had some extra like bedrooms and stuff. So we got to meet like a lot of bands and then invite these people over to, you know, hey, stay at our house, come crash here. And we've made some great friends and just some great community, you know, in the scene just through that alone. And, you know, it's really cool just seeing how supportive people are of one another, you know, in the scene. So
no, I definitely appreciate that, just as like, again, a person that does all this sort of stuff. I think that, you know, that, I mean, that's what I thrive off of too. So like it's cool, and I definitely, you know, appreciate bands like yours, like Jack's band, Buried Heart, like, you know, those are band, and like, you know, every other band that I've literally done interviews with. I think that, you know, if I'm gonna get far, like I want to take you guys, and, you know, I hope that you would extend the same sort of thought process. But, you know, I think it's really cool, and like, you know, Mark at Hemi, shouts to him, like he does a phenomenal job, and I think he never gets enough credit for what he does. So shout outs to Mark. He's a great guy. And but the next sort of question, Frank, like, you know, what's on the plate for Surrounded by Giants? Like, obviously you're writing new material, you're doing a full length. Like, how has that process been so far? And like, how far along are you in? And, you know, how has the new writing kind of formulated so far?
It's definitely been a process. We started really formulating ideas for songs back in 2015.
Oh, wow.
And slowly but surely, you know, things have been coming together. There's definitely been some hiccups along the way. I had a couple of injuries that kind of set me back. About a year ago, I sliced my pinky in half. I was working in a deli at the time, and it was like last May. We had a bunch of shows coming up, and I was just at work one day. I worked in a deli, and my hand slipped, and that kind of took me out for a little bit. And then about earlier this year, back in January, we were actually playing a show in Stockton, and I busted my leg. I actually tore my ACL. So in between, like, trying to get all this work done, you know, for SBG, I've had to deal with my body just breaking down over these injuries. So there's definitely been some hiccups and some things that have hindered the process and slowed things down. But, you know, we're at a place now where things, you know, we've been working at it for so long. It's kind of like we're starting to see like the big picture and kind of like the light at the end of the tunnel. So it's been nice. I'm super excited to like finally get some new material out there and share just like what I've been working on with the world for the past, you know, couple years.
Awesome. Well, dude, you know, I'm always stoked about stuff. Like, I think for me, like, it's always cool when, you know, especially like just kind of doing like interviews that I've done interviews with like it before. Like, I think it's always cool to see like the progression of, just not only the artist, but just like the art itself. So I've been really kind of stoked on the whole R&B thing, and like I think that that's definitely going to be a cool element. Are you gonna have like any like guest spots? Are you thinking doing like maybe like this sort of Strawberry Girls angle where you get like vocalists on the track? I feel like that is like super underrated about that band, but also
Yeah.
do you think that there's going to be any songs that you might have vocals on? Because I remember it being, if I'm not, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if it's an instrumental band.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, so do you feel like you're going to be adding vocals in the next LP possibly?
It would be really cool. We don't have anything lined up yet, but I've had a couple conversations with a friend of mine who I'd like to bring in for like a couple tracks. But
you don't have to disclose it, Frank. It's totally cool. I'd like the surprise aspect of it. You know, you could tell me off camera if you want, and then just keep everybody in suspense.
Yeah, we'll see if it happens. But yeah, if it happens, we'll definitely be putting it out there. We'll see. It's we definitely have to follow up because it's been a little while since we've talked. But ideally, yeah, I would like. I think it'd be awesome to get some guest vocals, and even if it's not just like a straight song that's being sung, even just some vocal layers and vocal parts would be awesome to have. There's something about the human voice that's just so powerful, especially over music, that
absolutely.
You know, I think you definitely kind of notice or hear when it's lacking. So
I feel like if you're a band that can do instrumentals and there is no need for vocals, then you've hit that top tier of like instrumental bands. I'm thinking of one that I think would definitely work, and he's also in your area. I feel like Ondrea would be a dank just guest spot.
Yes.
Just, you know, Ondrea hit me on my DMs. We can get that shit rolling. You know, like that would be sick. I know that he's definitely obviously done features on the Buried Heart last record, so I think it's well in the possibility.
Yeah, I think it would definitely be a good match. We've known each other for some time. We've met at shows and stuff like that. So it'd be cool if something would come together. I love his style and
absolutely.
And, yeah, his vibe, his record is just so good, man. Salty.
Dude, salty
sauce on it.
Dude, yeah, that was seriously. I've told him so many times, dear guy. I feel like a broken record, but like I literally can't stop listening to that record, and even like the singles he's been releasing, man. Like I'm on it. Like I'm all about it. I'm on the Andreas train. Like, you know, I'm all good. But yeah, Frank, I'm like super stoked on some new stuff. So tell them about your band, where they can find you, and obviously you disclosed a little bit of future stuff, but if you want to talk a little bit more about what's going on, this is your time to talk about it.
Yeah, so back in 2015 we put out our first EP. It's available on all streaming platforms. You can also download it off of Bandcamp. I believe we're surroundedbygiants.bandcamp.com. Might be surroundedbygiants1.bandcamp.
It's okay, we got it. I got you.
It's been a little while since I've checked it. And then next week, we're putting out a single. It's going to be called Ganjasaurus Rex. It's kind of a wacky, it's probably like our most aggressive song. Like, it's not heavy, but it's very kind of fast-paced and kind of sporadic and wild. So we just recorded that with Josh Unit from Wolf and Bear, and then we're going to be meeting with him later this year to do the rest of the album. So this is going to be the first single for it. So we're super excited to release it. We're also going to be dropping, I guess, like a little video to accompany the song. I had a little free time while I was dealing with my leg injury, so I sort of made this wacky, kind of trippy little slideshow that I put over the song. So stick around, and yeah, about, what's today, the 27th? I think Tuesday the 6th is when we're slated to drop that song. So I'm excited. I think it's the best sounding thing we've recorded yet. So
Well, you've got the hype train going for me. Also, I like how you completely dated this video, so when it goes out, everybody's gonna be like, this song has been out for like a month now or something like that. But definitely go check out Frank's band, Surrounded by Giants, one of the OG Audio Addiction fam. Really just always a pleasure having him on. Links are in the description. Go find out about his band. There's a link to the end of the video to his YouTube channel. Go subscribe to that so you can check out the latest, music video that he put out. Also, I'm sure there's shows coming up in the foreseeable future, so if you live out in the Sacramento, California area, go see them. Really, again, sick band. I've only seen live footage. I've never seen it with my actual eyes, so that will have to be arranged some point in 2019. I know that that's a stretch, but it's totally possible. I'm a hopeful individual, so I think that I will believe that you guys will come out here in 2019.
New Jersey's definitely on the checklist. Definitely.
There you go. That's what I like to hear. Definitely go check out Frank's band, like I've been mentioning, like a broken record. If you enjoyed this interview, subscribe, share it, hit that thumbs up. It really goes a long way. And then thanks to Frank, of course, for coming on and deciding to do this shit for the second time. Always a pleasure, man.
Likewise, man. It's always fun, Brandon.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Of course, if you enjoy what we do, make sure to go check out the other series we do. We do album reviews, we do band interviews, and we do live videos, so definitely go check that out. Hit that subscribe button. It really helps our channel, helps us grow. Make sure to hit that like button as well. Go follow us on social media. That's all down below. We try to keep that as updated as possible. We also made a new website where we'll be posting photos of upcoming concerts and stuff like that, which you can go check out at audioaddictionmedia.com and come get your fix with us, guys. Talk to you later. Deuces.